The holographic contract floated between them, its alien script shifting and morphing into readable English as Gareth Miles studied each clause. The recruitment office on Luna Station was sterile white, designed to be neutral territory between Earth and its newest ally, Illyria. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Earth hung like a blue marble against the void. Bodyguard services for 2 Illyrian royals attending the Interspecies Academy, the liaison officer repeated, her voice carrying that peculiar dual-tone quality all Illyrians possessed. 6-month initial contract, with possibility of extension. Gareth's scarred fingers drummed against his thigh. After 5 years of drifting between security gigs since the Frontier Wars ended, this was the first job that actually paid well enough to matter. The fact that it involved protecting alien princesses at some fancy school seemed almost laughably easy compared to his last deployment. "Why hire human security?" he asked, his gravelly voice betraying nothing of his thoughts. "Your people have superior technology." The liaison's crystalline eyes flickered with what might have been amusement. "The Academy requires cultural balance. Human perspectives have proven valuable in unexpected ways." Translation: they needed someone expendable who wouldn't cause a diplomatic incident if things went sideways. Gareth had been around enough to read between the lines. "When do I start?" "Immediately. The princesses are already enrolled. You'll meet them at the Academy's Earth campus in New Singapore." 3 hours later, Gareth stood at the entrance to the most exclusive educational institution in the solar system. The Interspecies Academy sprawled across artificial islands, its architecture a blend of human functionality and alien aesthetics. Crystalline spires twisted toward the sky alongside familiar glass and steel structures. Students of a dozen different species moved across floating walkways, their various forms creating a living kaleidoscope of diversity. His military-issue duffel bag felt out of place among the luxury hover vehicles dropping off students. The gate scanner identified him immediately, and a pleasant AI voice directed him to the administrative wing. "Mr. Miles, punctual as expected from Earth military." Administrator Kiva greeted him. Unlike the liaison, she was human, though her years working with multiple species had given her an almost unnaturally diplomatic demeanor. "The princesses are in the main amphitheater. They're giving a presentation on Illyrian art forms." "Security briefing first," Gareth said. It wasn't a request. Kiva's smile tightened slightly. "Of course. Though I should warn you, the princesses can be particular about their independence. Previous security personnel found them challenging." "Challenging how?" "Perhaps it's better if you experience it yourself." The security center was impressive, even by military standards. Holographic displays showed every corner of the campus, with threat assessment algorithms running constantly. The Academy's security chief, a gruff Martian colonist named Thompson, walked him through the protocols. "No weapons on campus except non-lethal defense systems," Thompson explained. "The whole place is covered by suppression fields anyway. Any energy discharge above civilian levels gets immediately contained." "What about external threats?" "That's why you're here. The princesses have received some concerning messages. Nothing actionable yet, but with the peace treaty still fresh." Thompson shrugged. "A lot of people on both sides aren't happy about the alliance." Gareth nodded. He'd seen enough post-war situations to know how fragile peace could be. "One more thing," Thompson added with what might have been sympathy. "The princesses have a reputation for testing new security. Just keep your cool." The amphitheater was packed with students when Gareth arrived. On the central platform, 2 figures commanded attention with an almost gravitational presence. The twins were striking even by Illyrian standards. Their skin had that characteristic pearl-like luminescence, shifting between pale silver and soft gold as they moved. Both had the elongated, elegant features of their species, with high cheekbones and large eyes that seemed to hold galaxies. But that's where the similarities ended. The one speaking, who Gareth identified as Alara from his briefing files, carried herself with regal bearing. Her dark hair was arranged in an intricate style that probably had cultural significance, and her voice rang with authority as she explained the mathematical principles behind Illyrian sculpture. Her sister Sora lounged on a gravity-defying chair, occasionally adding comments that made the audience laugh. Where Alara was formal, Sora was relaxed, her hair loose and flowing, her gestures animated and expressive. Gareth positioned himself at the back of the amphitheater, beginning his threat assessment. Exits 4 ground level, 2 emergency aerial. Potential concealment points minimal. Good design. Student body language engaged. No apparent hostility. His trained eye cataloged everything automatically. Then Sora's gaze found him. Even across the crowded amphitheater, he felt the weight of her attention. She whispered something to her sister, and Alara's eyes followed. A subtle communication passed between the twins, too quick for him to interpret. The presentation continued for another 20 minutes. Gareth maintained his position, already mentally mapping patrol routes and safety protocols. When the twins finally descended from the platform, surrounded by admirers and questions, he moved to intercept. "Your Highnesses," he said, offering the minimal bow that Earth Illyrian protocol demanded. "Gareth Miles, I'll be handling your security." Alara studied him with those impossibly deep eyes. Another human soldier? How predictable. "Sister," Sora chided playfully, circling him with the curiosity of a cat. "Don't be rude. He's quite different from the last 3. 3. Gareth kept his expression neutral. "Oh yes," Sora grinned, revealing perfect teeth that were just slightly too sharp to be human. "They never last long. Too boring, too rigid, too fragile." "I'm not easily broken." "We'll see." The crowd of students had formed a loose circle, sensing entertainment. Gareth recognized the setup immediately. Public humiliation to establish dominance. Classic power play. Alara raised one elegant hand, and the air around Gareth shimmered. Suddenly, he wasn't standing in the amphitheater anymore. He was back on Titan, during the worst fighting of the war. The acrid smell of burning atmosphere filled his nostrils. The screams of his squad echoed in his ears. An Illyrian warrior stood before him, energy blade raised for the killing blow. His heart rate spiked, muscle memory kicked in. Drop, roll, find cover. But Gareth didn't move. Instead, he took a slow, deliberate breath. The scar tissue on his ribs pulled tight, a reminder of what was real and what wasn't. He'd lived through Titan once. This was just a light show. "Impressive holographic work," he said calmly, his voice cutting through the illusion. "But you missed the details. Illyrian military boots have a different tread pattern, and the energy blade's frequency is wrong. Too blue. Not enough ultraviolet." The illusion shattered like glass. The amphitheater came back into focus. The watching students murmured with surprise, and what might have been approval. Sora looked delighted. Alara's expression was unreadable. "You fought our people before," Alara stated. "I've fought beside them too," Gareth replied. "Wars end. Jobs change. I adapt." "And if we're attacked by humans who haven't adapted?" Sora asked, though her tone was more curious than challenging now. "Then they'll have to go through me first." Something shifted in Alara's bearing. The test was over, at least for now. "Very well. Mr. Miles, Sora and I have a biochemistry lab in 20 minutes. Try to keep up." The twins moved through the academy like they owned it, which technically they probably could have. Gareth followed at a professional distance, noting how other students gave them space. Respect or fear both, probably. The biochemistry lab was a marvel of integrated technology. Human and Illyrian equipment worked in harmony, allowing students to explore the building blocks of life from multiple perspectives. The professor, an elderly Illyrian with skin like burnished copper, barely acknowledged their arrival. Gareth took position by the door, maintaining sightlines while trying to look unobtrusive. He'd pulled protective duty for diplomats before, but this was different. These weren't cautious politicians surrounded by handlers. The twins engaged with their experiment with genuine enthusiasm. Sora making jokes that had her lab partner in stitches, while Alara meticulously recorded observations. Halfway through the class, his enhanced peripheral vision caught movement. A student approaching from an unusual angle, hand reaching into a bag. Gareth shifted position slightly, ready to intercept. The student pulled out a holopad, shyly approaching Sora for an autograph. "Stand down, no threat." But Alara had noticed his movement. Those galaxy eyes met his, and for a moment he saw something unexpected. Approval, or just acknowledgement that he was actually doing his job. The rest of the day followed a similar pattern. Classes, social interactions, meals in the Academy's diverse cafeteria, where foods from 50 worlds competed for attention. The twins were popular, but kept a certain distance. They performed their roles as cultural ambassadors flawlessly, but Gareth sensed the weight it put on them. During a break between classes, he found himself alone with them in one of the Academy's many gardens. Earth roses grew alongside Illyrian crystal flowers, creating a riot of familiar and alien beauty. "You're not what we expected," Sora said, perched on a bench that adjusted itself to her form. "What did you expect?" "Someone who would treat us like glass figurines," Alara answered, "or exotic animals to be caged and displayed." "You're students," Gareth said simply. "My job is to keep you safe so you can learn. Everything else is just noise." Sora laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Oh, I like him. Can we keep him, Alara?" "He's not a pet sister." "Neither are we," Gareth added quietly. That earned him another long look from Alara. "No," she agreed. "We're not." As the day wound down, Gareth escorted them to their quarters in the diplomatic residence hall. The suite was luxurious, but secure, with its own internal defenses and communication systems. He did a thorough sweep while the twins settled in. "Your quarters are across the hall," Alara informed him. "We have a free study period tomorrow morning, then advanced diplomatic history after lunch. I'll need your full schedule for the week, and any appointments or meetings outside regular classes." "So organized," Sora teased. "We're all human soldiers this methodical. The living ones were—" That killed the light mood. Both twins looked at him with something that might have been understanding. "The war took much from both our peoples," Alara said softly. "Perhaps that's why we're here, to make sure it doesn't happen again. Or maybe we're just here to learn and make friends and have fun," Sora countered, though her usual levity was subdued. "Not everything has to be about politics and peace treaties." "Everything is politics when you're royal," Alara reminded her. Gareth finished his security check and moved toward the door. "Get some rest. Tomorrow will be another long day." "Mr. Miles," Alara called as he reached the threshold. "Thank you for not flinching during our test." "You're welcome. But next time you want to test me, just ask. I'm not going anywhere." He left them to their evening, crossing to his own quarters. The room was simple but comfortable, with a bed that would actually fit his frame and a workstation for security planning. He dropped his duffel and began unpacking, hanging his few civilian clothes next to the formal uniform the Academy required for official functions. As he worked, his mind processed the day. The twins were more complex than his briefing suggested. Alara's rigid control hid something deeper, while Sora's playfulness might be armor of a different kind. They were young, probably early 20s in Earth years, carrying the weight of two civilizations' hopes on their shoulders. His secure communicator chimed. A message from Thompson. "Survived day 1, I see. Impressive. Security briefing tomorrow 0800. We've had some developments." Developments. Military speak for things are about to get complicated. Gareth settled at his workstation, pulling up the Academy's security feeds. He might be off duty, But old habits died hard. The campus was quiet, students settling in for the night. The twins' suite showed normal readings. Life signs steady. But something nagged at him. That moment in the amphitheater, when the twins had first noticed him. The look they'd exchanged wasn't just mischief. It was recognition. But how could they recognize someone they'd never met? He made a note to dig deeper into the previous security details reports. 3 guards dismissed in quick succession wasn't normal turnover. It was a pattern. And in his experience, patterns usually meant problems. Outside his window, the lights of New Singapore glittered like terrestrial stars. Somewhere in the distance, a transport lifted off, heading for orbit. The future was being written in places like this academy, where the children of former enemies learned together. Gareth allowed himself a grim smile. He'd fought in the war that nearly destroyed both civilizations. Now he was protecting the hope for peace. The irony wasn't lost on him. His communication implant buzzed. A message from Sora, somehow sent directly, despite not having his personal codes. Thank you for not treating us like glass. Sweet dreams, soldier. Before he could puzzle out how she'd manage that. Another message appeared. This one, properly routed through official channels. Alara. Breakfast is at 700 in the diplomatic dining hall. Sora likes Earth coffee. I prefer Illyrian morning tea. Your files didn't specify your preference. Black coffee, strong, he replied. Of course. Rest well, Mr. Miles. Tomorrow we'll show you why the previous guards quit. A challenge and a warning wrapped in politeness. These two were going to be more than a handful. Gareth secured his station and prepared for bed, running through mental exercises to process the day. In the silence of his quarters, he touched the scar on his ribs. The war had taken much from him, including most of his squad, and any illusions about glory. But maybe, just maybe, protecting these impossible twins might give some meaning to his survival. As sleep finally claimed him, he thought he heard music drifting from across the hall. Sora's voice, singing something that sounded like a lullaby in High Illyrian. The melody was hauntingly beautiful and utterly alien. Welcome to your new life, soldier, he thought. Try not to screw it up. The security center's main display cast harsh blue light across Thompson's weathered face as he pulled up the corrupted surveillance files. Gareth stood beside him, coffee growing cold in his hand as he watched fragments of footage flicker and die. Started 3 days ago, Thompson said, his Martian accent thick with frustration. Random glitches at first, then entire hours missing. Someone's been in our system. Inside job, Gareth asked, though he already suspected the answer. Has to be. These aren't amateur hacks. Whoever's doing this knows our rotation schedules, blind spots, even when we run maintenance cycles. Thompson killed the display with a gesture of disgust. 20 years I've been doing security. Never seen anything this sophisticated that wasn't military grade. Gareth set down his coffee, mind already running through possibilities. The twins' previous security detail. Did they report anything unusual before they quit? First one lasted 2 weeks. Said the job was incompatible with his skill set. Second, made it a month before citing personal reasons. The third. Thompson pulled up another file. She transferred to a mining station in the asteroid belt. Said she'd rather dodge meteors than deal with whatever was happening here. Did you debrief them? Tried. They were pretty tight-lipped. Signed some hefty NDAs on their way out. Thompson leaned back in his chair. Look, Miles, I know you're good. Your service record speaks for itself. But there's something going on here that goes beyond standard protection duty. Before Gareth could respond, his communicator buzzed. Sora's face appeared in miniature hologram, her expression uncharacteristically serious. Gareth, you need to come to our quarters. Now. The connection cut before he could ask questions. Thompson was already pulling up the residence hall feeds. Shit, the security chief muttered. Their door was accessed 15 minutes ago. No authorization logged. Gareth was moving before Thompson finished speaking. The Academy's morning crowds parted before his purposeful stride, students sensing the urgency in his movement. He took the stairs 3 at a time, hand instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. The twins' door stood slightly ajar. No obvious damage, but the electronic lock showed signs of sophisticated tampering. Gareth entered carefully, muscle memory from 100 breaches guiding his movements. Alara stood by the window, rigid with controlled anger. Sora sat on the couch, holding something wrapped in dark cloth. Neither appeared injured, but the atmosphere in the room crackled with tension. "Are you hurt?" Gareth asked, already scanning for threats. "Physically, no," Alara replied, her dual-toned voice sharp as crystal. "Show him, Sora." Sora unwrapped the object with careful hands. Inside lay a traditional Illyrian mourning blade, its surface etched with symbols Gareth recognized from the war. Death markers, used to count fallen enemies. "It was on my pillow," Sora said quietly. "With this..." She handed him a small holoprojector. When activated, it displayed a single line of text in both Illyrian and English: "The pure blood remembers." "Pack your things," Gareth said immediately. "We're moving you to a secure location." "No." Alara's response was immediate and fierce. "We're not running. We're not hiding. That's exactly what they want. What they want is irrelevant if you're dead." "We're not that easy to kill," Sora interjected, some of her usual spark returning. "Besides, if we leave now, we prove that threats work. Every anti-alliance faction on both worlds will take note." Gareth recognized the stubborn set of their expressions. Royalty, regardless of species, rarely responded well to being told what to do. "Fine, but we do this my way. No more predictable schedules, no announced appearances, and definitely no splitting up." He examined the mourning blade more closely. "This is military issue, pre-treaty manufacture. Someone's either been holding onto it or has access to old stockpiles." "There were many who opposed the peace," Alara said softly, "on both sides." Over the next hour, Gareth transformed their security arrangement. He installed portable sensors that would alert him to any unauthorized access, established new communication protocols, and mapped out alternative routes through the Academy. The twins watched with interest, occasionally asking questions that showed they understood more about security than they'd initially let on. "You're different when you're working," Sora observed, perched on the arm of a chair. "Less careful." "This is when careful gets people killed," Gareth replied, adjusting the final sensor. "Fast and decisive keeps you alive." "Speaking from experience?" Alara asked. "Too much of it." A soft chime indicated someone at the door. Gareth checked his scanner, relaxing slightly when he saw who it was. "It's your biochemistry lab partner," he told Sora. "The one from yesterday." "Oh, that's Marcus," Sora brightened. "We're supposed to work on our project proposal." "He can come here," Gareth said. "No more meeting in public spaces until I've assessed the threat level." The young man who entered was clearly nervous, whether from Gareth's imposing presence or the general atmosphere of tension. Marcus Chen was a second-generation Mars colonist, gangly in the way of those raised in lower gravity, with the enhanced lung capacity that marked his origin. "I brought the simulation models," he said, holding up a datapad. "Sora, are you okay? There are rumors flying around campus." "Rumors," Alara's attention sharpened. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "People are saying someone broke into the diplomatic wing, that there was some kind of threat against..." He glanced between the twins. "Against you." "People talk," Sora said dismissively, though Gareth noticed how her fingers tightened on the arm of her chair. "Come on, let's look at your models. I have some ideas about enzyme compatibility across species that will blow your mind." As the two students huddled over their work, Alara moved to stand beside Gareth. The rumors will spread, she said quietly. Fear is a useful tool for those who oppose the alliance. Then we control the narrative. Make it known that you're not intimidated, that Earth and Illyria stand together. Alara studied him with those impossible eyes. You sound like a diplomat, not a soldier. 5 years of war taught me that bullets solve immediate problems. Words prevent future ones. And yet someone wants to drag us back to the immediate problems. Their conversation was interrupted by Sora's delighted laugh. She and Marcus had projected a complex molecular structure into the air, its bonds shifting and recombining in response to their inputs. Look at this, Sora exclaimed. If we adjust the hydrogen bonds here, the entire structure becomes compatible with both human and Illyrian physiology. It's like the molecules want to work together. That's impossible, Marcus breathed, staring at the data. The protein folding alone should cause rejection. But it doesn't, Sora finished, her eyes shining with discovery. Alara, come see this. It's extraordinary. For the next hour, Gareth watched the three young people work, their excitement infectious despite the morning's grim start. This was what the Academy was meant to be, minds from different worlds, solving problems together. It was worth protecting. His communicator buzzed, Thompson again. We've got something. Can you come to security? Bring the twins. The security center had been transformed into a war room. Additional monitors showed feed from across the Academy, and Thompson had called in his senior staff. The tension was palpable. We tracked the hack, Thompson announced without preamble. It originated from the Illyrian Embassy's cultural center, specifically from a terminal assigned to... He paused, clearly uncomfortable. To the cultural attaché's office. Alara went very still. Show me. The data was damning. Multiple intrusions, all traced back to the same source. Whoever was behind this had used their diplomatic access to burrow deep into the Academy systems. Creven, Sora whispered, recognition dawning. He's Mother's third advisor. He was at the treaty signing. He lost his entire unit in the Battle of Titan, Alara added, her voice hollow. Mother appointed him to the cultural mission as a way to heal, to show that we could move forward. Gareth felt the pieces clicking into place. A war veteran with access, motive, and means. It was almost too neat. We need to be careful, he said. This could be a frame job. Someone wanting us to suspect Illyrian involvement. Or it could be exactly what it looks like, Thompson countered. A bitter veteran who can't let go of the war. Either way, we need proof before we act, Alara said with royal authority. Accusations without evidence will destroy everything we've worked for. Over the following days, Gareth tightened security while maintaining the appearance of normalcy. The twins attended their classes, participated in Academy events, and gave no outward sign of concern. But beneath the surface, investigation continued. More gifts appeared despite their precautions. A datapad containing images from the war's worst battles. A vial of synthetic Illyrian blood, with a note reading, "This is all that will remain." Each item carefully chosen to invoke fear and hatred. Gareth noticed changes in the twins as well. Alara grew more withdrawn, spending hours analyzing political implications. Sora's laughter came less frequently, though she maintained her mask of cheerfulness in public. You need to tell your mother, Gareth said one evening, as they reviewed the latest threat assessment. Tell her what? Alara asked bitterly. That her peace treaty is falling apart, that someone in her own delegation might be sabotaging everything she has enough burdens? She's the queen. This is exactly the kind of burden she needs to know about. You don't understand, Sora interjected. We're not here just as students. We're symbols, proof that the next generation can coexist. If we run home at the first sign of trouble, the alliance crumbles, Alara finished. No, we stay. We face this. We prove that fear doesn't control us. It was during a late-night study session that everything changed. Gareth was reviewing security feeds when his enhanced hearing caught something off. A subsonic hum. Barely perceptible, but definitely artificial. "Get down!" he shouted, rushing toward the twins. The study room's holographic projectors erupted in blinding light. When Gareth's vision cleared, they were no longer in the academy. They stood in a war-torn cityscape, buildings burning with purple Illyrian fire. Bodies littered the streets, human and Illyrian alike. But this wasn't just a hologram. Gareth felt heat from the flames, smelled the acrid smoke. Advanced sensory manipulation, far beyond what the twins had used in their prank. "This is what peace brings." A voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "This is the future you're building. The pure will not allow it." Sora gasped, pointing to one of the bodies. It wore her face, eyes vacant in death. Beside it lay Alara's double, human weapons wounds across her perfect features. "It's not real," Gareth said firmly, gripping both their arms. "Close your eyes. Trust me." "But I can feel," Sora started. "Trust me," he repeated. They closed their eyes. Gareth counted slowly to 10, then triggered his personal emergency beacon. The sensory overload shorted out against the beacon's interference pattern, reality reasserting itself in jarring waves. They were back in the study room. Sora was shaking. Alara's face had gone pale. Her usual composure cracked. "How?" Alara whispered. "The Academy systems shouldn't allow that level of manipulation." "They don't," Gareth said grimly. "This was hardware, not software. Someone physically installed advanced projectors." He was already moving, scanner in hand. "There, microprojectors in the ventilation system. Military-grade sensory assault tech." "The kind used in enhanced interrogation," Sora said quietly. Too quietly. "You've experienced it before," Gareth realized. "Once. During diplomatic training. To prepare us for—" Alara couldn't finish. "For if we were ever captured," Sora completed. But this was worse. More personal. Security arrived within minutes. Thompson, leading the team. The microprojectors were carefully extracted, their origin traced through manufacturing codes. "Illyrian military surplus," Thompson reported. "Reported destroyed after the treaty. Someone's been stockpiling. Or someone with access made them disappear before destruction," Gareth suggested. The investigation intensified. Gareth barely left the twins' side, sleeping in shifts, eating on the move. The psychological warfare escalated, whispers in the halls when they passed. Other students receiving anonymous messages, warning them to stay away from the alien sympathizers, or the race traders. It was Sora who made the breakthrough. Despite everything, she'd continued her biochemistry project with Marcus. Their enzyme compatibility research had evolved into something larger, something with real implications for human-Illyrian medical cooperation. "Gareth," she said one afternoon, bursting into their quarters with Marcus in tow. "We found something. Not about the threats, about why they're happening now." She projected their research, the molecular structures dancing in the air. "This isn't just about compatible medicines," Marcus explained, excitement overcoming his usual nervousness. What Sora discovered, it could lead to treatments for the Fade. Gareth felt ice in his veins. The Fade was a degenerative condition affecting pureblood Illyrians, growing worse with each generation. It was one of the reasons some Illyrians had initially sought the Alliance access to human genetic diversity and medical knowledge. "If this research continues," Alara said slowly, understanding dawning, "it proves that cooperation between our species isn't just politically beneficial. It's necessary for our survival." "And someone really doesn't want that proven," Gareth concluded. That night, as they prepared for another Academy event, a cultural exhibition where the twins would demonstrate traditional Illyrian art forms, Gareth's instincts screamed danger. Everything was too quiet. The threats had stopped. In his experience, that meant someone was preparing for action, not giving up. "I don't like this," he told the twins as they prepared. "We should cancel." "We can't," Alara said, adjusting her formal robes. "Half the academy will be there. The press is coming. If we cancel now, without concrete proof of danger, it looks like the terrorists have won. Better to look weak than be dead." "We won't be," Sora said with surprising steel. "Because you'll be there. Because security will be there. Because we refuse to let fear dictate our lives." Gareth recognized the futility of arguing. These two had been raised as leaders, trained from birth to put duty before safety. It was admirable and frustrating in equal measure. "Fine. But we do this my way. You stay within arm's reach at all times. Any sign of trouble, we leave immediately. No heroics." "Agreed," Alara said. As they made their way to the exhibition hall, Gareth couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. The corridors were filled with students and guests, all heading to the same destination. Too many variables, too many unknowns. The exhibition hall was packed, a mixture of species creating a cacophony of languages and sounds. The twins' demonstration area was on a raised platform at the center, surrounded by other cultural displays from across the Alliance worlds. Gareth positioned himself at the platform's base, eyes constantly moving. Thompson's security team was spread throughout the crowd, their positions marked on his tactical display. Everything appeared normal. The twins began their demonstration, Alara explaining the historical significance of Illyrian light weaving, while Sora created intricate patterns in the air. The audience was mesmerized, the beauty of the art form transcending species boundaries. Then, Gareth's scanner detected it. An energy buildup, subtle but growing. His eyes tracked to the source, a maintenance panel that should have been sealed. "Code 7, he said quietly into his comm. "Northwest maintenance panel. Possible device." Security began moving, trying not to cause panic. But whoever was watching was ready. The lights cut out, plunging the hall into darkness. Screams erupted. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting everything in harsh red. And in that bloody light, Gareth saw them figures in combat gear moving through the crowd with purpose. "Down!" he shouted, leaping onto the platform. He tackled both twins behind the display console as energy bolts sizzled through the air where they'd been standing. "Extraction Team Alpha," he barked into his comm. "Royal packages in danger, multiple hostiles." The response was static. Communications were jammed. "Can you run?" he asked the twins. "Yes," they said in unison, fear and determination mixing in their voices. "Then stay low and follow me. We're getting out of here." What followed was a nightmare of controlled chaos. Gareth led them through the panicking crowd, using his body to shield them from sight and fire. The attackers were professional, herding the crowd to create maximum confusion while hunting their specific targets. They almost made it to the emergency exit when one of the attackers stepped into their path. The figure's face was hidden behind a tactical mask, but the morning blade in their hand was unmistakable. "The pure blood remembers," the figure said in accented English. "And the pure blood acts." Gareth pushed the twins behind him. No weapons, no backup, just his body between them and death. Time seemed to slow as the attacker raised the blade. Then, Sora did something impossible. She stepped around Gareth, her hand glowing with soft light, and spoke a single word in High Illyrian. The attacker froze, the blade clattering from nerveless fingers. "Sleep," she said sadly, "and forget your hatred." The figure collapsed. Sora swayed, caught by Alara. "How?" Gareth asked, even as he grabbed the dropped blade and checked for more threats. "A gift," Alara explained quickly. "One we're not supposed to reveal. One that makes us valuable beyond our bloodline." "Later," Gareth decided. "Move now, explain later." They burst through the emergency exit into the night. Academy security forces were converging, the attack already being contained. But Gareth didn't stop until they were in the secured bunker beneath the security center. Only then, With blast doors sealed and Thompson's team standing guard, did he allow himself to breathe? "Report," Thompson demanded, entering the bunker. 6 attackers. Maybe more. Professional gear. Military training. They knew exactly when and how to strike. Gareth set the morning blade on the table. "And they're not done. This was a probe, testing our responses. The real attack will come soon." Alara agreed, exhaustion clear in her voice. "Now that they know we're defended, they'll escalate." "Then we escalate first," Gareth said. "No more playing defense, we find them before they strike again." Sora, still pale from whatever she'd done to the attacker, managed a weak smile. "See, I told you he was different from the others." Despite everything, Gareth found himself almost smiling back. "Yeah, well, the night's still young. Plenty of time for me to disappoint you. But looking at these 2 impossible, brave, frustrating young women, he knew he wouldn't. Whatever was coming, whatever conspiracy was closing around them, he'd see them through it. The war might be over, but the battle for peace had just begun. The explosion shattered the pre-dawn quiet like a thunderclap. Gareth was moving before the debris finished falling, combat instincts overriding the lingering effects of sleep. The twins' quarters were 3 doors down from his, and he covered the distance in seconds. Their door hung askew, its reinforced frame twisted by the blast. Smoke poured from within, carrying the acrid smell of burnt electronics and something else, something chemical and wrong. Alara Sora. He plunged into the smoke, thermal vision implants activated. He found them in the living area, huddled behind an overturned couch. Alara had thrown up some kind of energy shield, its pale light flickering weakly. Sora was unconscious, a gash on her forehead bleeding silver. "Kitchen," Alara gasped. "Came through the service duct." Gareth swept the area, confirming no immediate threats, then scooped up Sora. "Can you walk?" Alara nodded, though her shield faltered as she stood. Whatever that ability cost her, it was clearly significant. They evacuated to the medical wing, joining a stream of other students fleeing the dormitory. Academy emergency responders were already on scene, but Gareth trusted no one else with the twins' safety. He stood guard while Dr. Sarah Winters, the Academy's chief physician, examined them. "Concussion for Sora, but nothing serious," Dr. Winters reported. "Alara has energy depletion. I've seen it before in Illyrians who overextend their neural capacities. They both need rest." "They need more than that," Thompson said, entering with a grim expression. "That wasn't just a bomb. Forensics found traces of netherbane." Gareth felt his blood chill. Netherbane was a biological weapon developed during the war's darkest days, designed specifically to target Illyrian neurological systems. It had been banned by both sides, all stockpiles supposedly destroyed. "Someone's not just trying to kill them," he said quietly. "They're trying to make a statement." "The message was received," Alara said from her bed, voice steady despite her exhaustion. "They want us to know that nowhere is safe, that human promises of protection are worthless." "My protection isn't worthless," Gareth said firmly. "No," she agreed, meeting his eyes. "It's not. Which is why you're still alive. They expected you to be in your quarters when the bomb went off." The implication hit him like a physical blow. The explosion in the twins' room had been a diversion. His quarters were completely destroyed, reduced to rubble and ash. If he'd been inside... "They're getting desperate," Thompson observed. "Sloppy, using banned weapons. Attacking on Academy grounds. This isn't calculated terrorism anymore. It's panic." "Or escalation," Gareth countered. "Someone's timeline got moved up. The question is why." Over the next 3 days, the Academy transformed into an armed camp. Earth peacekeeping forces joined Academy security in visible patrols. The media descended like vultures, broadcasting every development across human and Illyrian space. The attack had achieved what all the previous threats hadn't: public attention. The twins were moved to a secure facility within the Academy's administrative complex. It was a gilded cage, comfortable but confining. Gareth watched them chafe against the restrictions, especially Sora. "I can't breathe in here," she complained, pacing the limited space like a caged predator. "No windows, no sky, no art, no music. This isn't living." "It's surviving," Gareth replied. "Living comes after we neutralize the threat." When Alara asked from where she sat reviewing security reports, "When Father's generation fought your people, they had an enemy to face. Clear battle lines. This is Shadow War. It could go on forever." "Not forever. They made a mistake using Netherbane. That stuff has molecular signatures, manufacturing traces. We can track it. To where some abandoned warehouse, a sympathizer who's already gone underground." Alara's frustration was palpable. "Meanwhile, we sit here, proving that terrorism works, that a few extremists can derail everything our people have worked toward." She was right, and Gareth knew it. But his job was keeping them alive, not winning hearts and minds. It was Marcus who provided an unexpected breakthrough. The young scientist arrived at the secure facility with Thompson's clearance, carrying a portable lab setup and an expression of determined fear. "I kept working on our research," he told Sora, setting up his equipment. "And I found something. The enzyme compatibility we discovered, it's not random. There's a pattern." He projected their molecular data, highlighting specific sequences. "These markers appear in roughly 3% of humans and 5% of Illyrians. But here's the interesting part, they're increasing with each generation. Like evolution is pushing both species toward compatibility." "That's impossible," Alara said, leaning forward. "Evolution doesn't work that quickly." "Unless it's not natural evolution," Sora said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "There are stories, old ones, from before official first contact. Travelers who claim to have met beings from the stars. Bloodlines that were different." "You're suggesting what exactly?" Gareth asked. "That maybe this isn't the first time our species have met." Alara finished for her sister. "That someone, long ago, saw this coming and planted seeds for peace in our very DNA. Or for conquest," Marcus added nervously, "depending on how you look at it." The implications were staggering. If true, it would rewrite the history of both species. More immediately, it explained why someone might desperately want to stop this research. "Who else knows about this?" Gareth demanded. "Just us," Marcus assured him. "I haven't published anything. Haven't even backed up the data off-site." "Good. Keep it that way. This information is now classified beyond top secret." Gareth was already thinking through scenarios. If there's even a chance this is true, it changes everything. The anti-alliance factions aren't just fighting a political treaty. They're fighting evolution itself. "A war they can't win," Alara murmured, "unless they destroy everyone who carries these markers." The room fell silent as that realization sank in. They weren't facing simple xenophobia or post-war resentment. They were facing genocide ideology. Gareth's communicator buzzed with an emergency signal. The display showed a message that made his blood freeze. "We have the human boy. The twins come alone, or he dies. Midnight. Coordinates attached." Marcus went pale. "My roommate said someone was asking about me yesterday. I thought it was just journalists." "They're not after Marcus," Alara said with cold certainty. "They're after us. He's just leverage." "We're not negotiating with terrorists," Gareth stated flatly. "We're not letting Marcus die either," Sora countered, her usual playfulness replaced by steel. "I won't have blood on my hands." "You won't have blood on your hands if you stay here and let security handle it. Like they handled the bombing, like they've handled everything else." Sora's eyes flashed with an inner light that reminded Gareth she was far from helpless. "No, we've been reactive too long. It's time to take control." The argument that followed was intense, but brief. In the end, pragmatism won. The coordinates led to an abandoned manufacturing facility in the industrial district, too many hiding spots, too many escape routes. A full security assault would likely result in Marcus's death. "We go," Alara decided with royal authority, but not alone and not unprepared. The plan they developed was risky but sound. The twins would appear to comply, drawing out the kidnappers. Gareth and a strike team would shadow them, ready to intervene. Micro-trackers, subdermal and undetectable, would ensure they could be found even if separated. "I still don't like it," Gareth said as they prepared. "Too many variables." "You don't have to like it," Alara replied, checking the emergency beacon hidden in her jewelry. "You just have to trust us." "I trust you, it's everyone else I worry about." Sora paused in her preparations, studying him with those impossibly deep eyes. "You've changed since that first day. Less soldier. More what? More human," Alara finished. "In the best way." Before Gareth could process that, Thompson arrived with final intel. Surveillance drones had mapped the facility, identifying likely positions and escape routes. The strike team was in position. Everything was as ready as it could be. The industrial district at night was a maze of shadows and defunct machinery. The manufacturing facility loomed against the sky, its broken windows like dead eyes. The twins moved through the main entrance while Gareth and his team infiltrated from 3 other points. Through his tactical feed, Gareth watched the twins enter the main floor. Emergency lighting cast everything in a sickly, yellow glow. Movement in the rafters, at least 4 hostiles, armed and positioned for crossfire. "Steady," he murmured into the comm. "Let them make the first move." A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, lean, wearing the ceremonial robes of an Illyrian cultural advisor. Even through the grainy feed, Gareth recognized him from intelligence photos. Creven, the war veteran turned diplomat. "Your Highnesses," Creven said, his voice carrying the weight of old pain. "How fitting that we meet here, in the ruins of cooperation. This facility once built components for joint human-Illyrian projects. Now it stands empty, like all promises between our peoples." "Where is Marcus?" Sora demanded. "Safe. For now." Creven gestured, and 2 guards brought out the young scientist. He was bruised, but alive, terror clear in his eyes. "A brilliant mind, poisoned by delusions of unity. Did you know his research has already spread? Others are beginning to ask questions about compatibility, about evolution, about the lies we've been told." "The only lies are the ones you tell yourself," Alara said coldly. "The war is over, Creven. We lost people too. But we chose to build rather than destroy." "Build." Creven's calm facade cracked. "You call this building diluting our bloodlines, corrupting our essence, turning us into pets for human ambition." "Is that what this is about?" Sora asked, genuine sadness in her voice. "You're afraid we'll lose ourselves, that peace means erasure." "I've seen what human peace looks like," Creven snarled. "I stood in the ashes of Kelrona's colony. I held my daughter as she died from human weapons. Don't speak to me of peace." Gareth felt the shift in atmosphere through the feed. This wasn't going to end with words. He signaled his team to prepare. "I'm sorry for your loss," Alara said, and seemed to mean it. "But killing us won't bring her back. It will only create more orphans, more grieving fathers." "Some prices are worth paying to preserve purity," Creven replied. He raised his hand, and energy weapons hummed to life around the room. "Your deaths will spark the war that should never have ended. Both sides will blame each other. The alliance will shatter." "No," Sora said simply. "It won't." She began to sing. It wasn't like her demonstration at the exhibition. This was something older, deeper. The melody resonated through the facility, visible as ripples in the air. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons, confusion and wonder replacing hostility. But Creven was ready. He pulled out a neural disruptor, its whine cutting through Sora's song. She cried out, falling to her knees. Alara caught her, fury replacing her diplomatic mask. "Now," Gareth ordered. The strike team moved with practiced precision. Smoke grenades and flashbangs turned the facility into chaos. Gareth dropped from the rafters, landing between the twins and Creven. The Illyrian raised his weapon, but Gareth was faster. A lifetime of combat distilled into one perfect moment: disarm, disable, neutralize. Creven hit the ground hard, the disruptor skittering away, around them. The strike team efficiently subdued the remaining guards. It was over in seconds. Sora struggled to her feet, supported by Alara. The young scientist was unharmed, quickly freed by Thompson's team. He rushed to Sora's side, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," he babbled. "They said they just wanted to talk about the research. I didn't think—" "It's not your fault," Sora assured him, though she swayed alarmingly. Whatever that song had cost her, combined with the disruptor's effects, had pushed her beyond her limits. "Medical team, now," Gareth ordered. Then, to Creven, "It's over. Your conspiracy, your war, all of it." Creven laughed bitterly from the ground. "You think I'm alone. You think this ends with me. We are Legion. Every pure blood who remembers what we've lost, what you've taken. This was just the beginning." "Maybe," Alara said, standing over him with regal bearing despite her exhaustion. "But you're wrong about one thing. Our deaths wouldn't have started a war. They would have united both species against extremism, against hate, against people like you." As medical teams arrived and authorities took Creven into custody, Gareth found himself supporting both twins. They leaned against him, dignity temporarily set aside for simple human or Illyrian need for comfort. "Thank you," Alara whispered. "Just doing my job," he replied automatically. "No," Sora corrected, her voice weak but warm. "Family doesn't get paid." "Family." The word hung in the air between them, unexpected and somehow right. The aftermath was a whirlwind of debriefings, medical checks, and diplomatic meetings. Creven's network proved smaller than his boasts, a handful of extremists on both sides, united only in their hatred. Most were rounded up within days, their plans exposed and neutralized. Marcus's research, now under protective classification, continued with official backing. The implications grew larger with each discovery. Whatever had seeded compatibility between the species had done so with intricate care, creating not conquest, but potential for true unity. 2 weeks after the warehouse confrontation, Gareth found himself in a very different setting. The twins had insisted on returning to their studies, refusing to let fear dictate their lives. But the academy had changed. Security was visible but not oppressive. Students of all species wore ribbons of solidarity, purple for Illyria, blue for Earth, woven together. "You're brooding again," Sora observed, dropping onto the bench beside him. They were in the garden where they'd had one of their first real conversations, though it felt like a lifetime ago. "Thinking," he corrected. About what comes next. Creven's in custody. The immediate threat is neutralized. My contract ends in 2 months, Alara finished, joining them. "We know." "So what do you want to do?" Sora asked with forced casualness. Gareth looked at these two impossible women who had somehow become central to his world. The soldier in him said to take the next job. Keep moving. Don't get attached. But the human in him, the part they'd awakened, had other ideas. Thompson offered me a permanent position, head of diplomatic security for the Academy. It would mean staying here, dealing with entitled royal brats from a dozen worlds. "How awful," Alara said dryly. "Terrible," Sora agreed. "We should probably warn you that we're planning to extend our studies. Another year at least. Possibly 2. "That long? Well, I have to perfect my singing," Sora said innocently. And Alara's determined to rewrite interspecies diplomatic protocol from the ground up. Plus, someone needs to keep an eye on Marcus's research, Alara added. Make sure it's used for healing, not harm. Sounds like you'll need security, Gareth observed. Constant security, Sora confirmed. Intrusive, overprotective, ridiculously competent security. Know anyone who fits that description? Alara asked. Gareth felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope, not just for survival or the next mission, but for an actual future, a life beyond war and vigilance. I might, he admitted, but he's got some conditions, such as no more heroic self-sacrifices. You trust me to do my job, even when it's inconvenient. And for the love of both our species, no more practical jokes involving holograms. Deal, the twins said in unison. As the afternoon sun painted the garden in golden hues, Gareth allowed himself a moment of peace. The conspiracy was broken, but the real work was just beginning. Building a future where human and Illyrian could truly coexist would take more than treaties and good intentions. It would take people willing to bridge the gap, to see beyond fear to possibility. Looking at Alara and Sora, brilliant and brave and utterly committed to that future, he knew they were up to the challenge. And maybe, just maybe, so was he. So, Sora said, breaking the comfortable silence. Want to hear about our next project? It involves diplomatic exchange programs, cultural integration workshops, and possibly teaching self-defense to overly trusting alien princesses. Why do I already regret this? Gareth asked. Because you're learning, Alara said with one of her rare, genuine smiles. Welcome to the family, Gareth. Try not to panic. He laughed, surprising himself with how natural it felt. Too late for that. But I'm staying anyway. In the distance, the academy bells chimed the hour. Students hurried to classes. A dozen species learning together, building tomorrow one lesson at a time. The war was over. The peace had been tested and held. Now came the hard part, learning to live with hope instead of fear, with trust instead of suspicion, with love that transcended the boundaries of worlds. Gareth Miles, soldier turned protector turned something more, was ready for the challenge. The Grand Harmonium floated like a jewel against the night sky, its crystalline architecture designed to amplify and blend sounds from across the galaxy. Tonight would mark history, the first joint human-Illyrian musical performance, with Sora performing an original composition that wove Earth's orchestral traditions with Illyrian tonal harmonics. Gareth stood in the security command center, watching feeds from over 200 cameras. Every entrance was covered, every guest scanned, every possible threat analyzed and countered. After the warehouse incident 3 weeks ago, he'd overseen the security preparations personally. Perimeter secure, Thompson reported from his station. Aerial drones show nothing unusual. Ground teams are in position. Energy readings, all normal. The suppression fields are at maximum. Nothing short of military-grade weapons could function in there, and we detect those from a kilometer away. Gareth nodded but didn't relax. His instincts had kept him alive through 5 years of war and 6 months of protecting the twins. Right now, those instincts were screaming. Where are the principals? He asked. Green room, level 3. Ambassador Harrison just arrived for the pre-concert briefing. On the monitor, Gareth watched the twins in their preparation room. Alara wore formal diplomatic robes. The deep purple fabric shot through with silver threads that caught the light like stars. She was reviewing her speech one final time, lips moving silently as she practiced the words in both languages. Sora sat at a practice harmonizer, her fingers dancing over the light keys as she warmed up. Her performance outfit was simpler, but no less striking, a flowing dress that shifted between earth blue and Illyrian silver as she moved. Her usual playfulness was tempered by focus, the artist preparing for the performance of her life. They look ready, Thompson observed. They look like targets, Gareth countered. High profile, emotionally significant targets. If I wanted to destroy the Alliance, this is exactly where I'd strike. Creven's network is dismantled. Intelligence hasn't found any new threats. Intelligence didn't find Creven until it was almost too late. Gareth pulled up the venue schematics again, looking for anything he might have missed. I want to double-check the maintenance areas. Something feels wrong. Thompson knew better than to argue with Gareth's instincts. Take Team 3. I'll monitor from here. Gareth made his way through the Harmonium service corridors. His team spread out behind him. The maintenance areas were a maze of power conduits, atmospheric processors, and acoustic enhancement systems. Everything appeared normal, but the feeling of wrongness persisted. They were checking the third level when Gareth's scanner picked up an anomaly. A slight temperature variance in one of the acoustic panels, barely noticeable, but wrong for a system that should be in perfect equilibrium. Hold position, he ordered, moving closer to investigate. The panel looked identical to hundreds of others throughout the venue. But when Gareth ran a deep scan, his blood went cold. Behind the panel's facade was a shaped charge, not enough to bring down the building, but perfectly positioned to collapse the performance platform. Bomb, he said tersely into his comm. Third level, acoustic panel 37. Get disposal here now. Copy. Team en route. Should we evacuate? Gareth thought quickly. Evacuation would cause panic, potentially triggering the bomber to act early. But leaving the audience at risk? Negative. Quiet removal. And get me everything on who's had access to this area in the last 72 hours. The bomb squad arrived within minutes, their movements professional and calm. As they worked, Gareth's mind raced. This device was sophisticated, designed to evade their security sweeps. Someone with intimate knowledge of the Harmonium systems had placed it. Sir, one of the technicians said quietly, this isn't the only one. The trigger mechanism is networked. There could be more devices. How many more? Based on the signal architecture, at least 5, maybe more. Gareth felt the weight of command decision. Hundreds of guests were already arriving, including diplomatic staff from a dozen worlds. The twins were preparing for their moment of triumph. And somewhere in this crystalline palace of music, an unknown number of bombs waited for a signal. Can you trace the trigger source? Working on it. But sir, if we're wrong about any of these devices... I know. Gareth made his decision. Continue quiet removal. I'm going to the twins. He found them in final preparations, surrounded by a flutter of assistants and cultural advisors. Alara looked up as he entered, immediately reading his expression. What's wrong? She asked in Illyrian, a language most of the staff didn't understand. Security concern, he replied in the same tongue, one of the few phrases he'd mastered. Then, switching to English, I need to review protocol with their highnesses, privately. The assistants reluctantly withdrew. As soon as they were alone, Gareth activated a privacy field. We've found explosive devices. Multiple. Someone's planning to bring down the platform during your performance. Sora's face paled, but her voice was steady. Can you stop it? We're working on it, but I want you both in protective gear, and I want abort protocols ready. The moment I give the signal. No, Alara interrupted. We're not canceling. Not again. This isn't about politics anymore. This is about your lives. Everything is about politics, Alara shot back. If we run now, after all the publicity, after promising to show unity through art, what message does that send? That you're smart enough to avoid obvious traps. That we're cowards, Sora said quietly. That human security can't protect us. That the extremists are right. Our species can't truly trust each other. Gareth wanted to argue, but he understood their position. The concert had become more than entertainment. It was a symbol, broadcast live to both worlds. Canceling now would be a propaganda victory for every faction opposed to the Alliance. Then we do this my way, he said firmly. Full protective protocols. The moment the second I detect an imminent threat, you move. No hesitation. No heroics. Agreed, Alara said. I mean it. No last-minute attempts to save the audience. No using your abilities to be heroes. You trust me, and you move. We trust you, Sora assured him. But Gareth, be careful. After everything, I don't want to lose you too. The simple honesty in her words caught him off guard. Over the months, professional distance had given way to something deeper. Not quite family, not quite romance, but something uniquely theirs. You won't, he promised. Now let's get you both ready to make history. The next hour passed in tense preparation. Gareth coordinated with the bomb squad as they methodically located and neutralized devices. 4 found. Estimated 2 to 3 remaining. The trigger source still eluded them. The harmonium filled with guests, diplomats, artists, students, and citizens chosen by lottery to witness this historic moment. Gareth positioned himself at the platform's base, close enough to reach the twins quickly, but not so close as to appear intrusive. Ladies and gentlemen, beings of all worlds, the announcer's voice resonated through the venue. Welcome to an evening of unity through art. Alara took the stage first, poised and regal. Her speech was perfectly crafted, acknowledging the pain of the past while celebrating the promise of the future. She spoke of music as a universal language, of harmony possible not just in sound, but in civilization itself. Gareth barely heard the words. His attention was split between threat assessment and the bomb squad's progress. 5 devices found, still searching for more. And now, Alara concluded, my sister will demonstrate that harmony made real. I present Sora of Illyria, performing Convergence, a piece that bridges our worlds. Sora took the stage to thunderous applause. She seated herself at the hybrid instrument, part piano, part Illyrian harmonizer, and for a moment, simply breathed. The audience fell silent, anticipation electric in the air. Then she began to play. The music was unlike anything Gareth had ever heard. It started with a simple earth melody, haunting and familiar. Then Illyrian harmonics joined in, not overwhelming the human elements but enhancing them. The 2 traditions danced around each other, sometimes in opposition, sometimes in perfect unity. Sora's voice joined the instruments, wordless but full of meaning. She sang of loss and hope, of fear and courage, of 2 peoples learning to see each other not as alien, but as family. The audience was transfixed. Even Gareth, focused on security, felt the music's pull. This was what they were protecting, not just 2 lives, but the possibility of understanding between worlds. Sir, Thompson's voice crackled in his earpiece. We've found the trigger source. It's in the VIP section. Ambassador Keeling's aide is carrying a modified communicator. Gareth's eyes snapped to the VIP box. Ambassador Keeling was Earth's senior diplomat, a respected veteran of the peace process. But his aide, the young man, was new, transferred just 3 weeks ago, right after Creven's arrest. Gareth watched as the aide's hand moved to his pocket, fingers closing around something. Take him, Gareth ordered, quietly if possible. Security moved through the crowd like ghosts, but the aide must have sensed something. His eyes went wide, hand emerging from his pocket with a device that definitely wasn't a standard communicator. Time slowed to a crawl. The aide's thumb moved toward the activation button. Security was still meters away. Too far. Too slow. Gareth didn't remember deciding to move. One moment he was at his post. The next he was vaulting onto the stage. His enhanced muscles, a legacy of military augmentation, propelled him across the distance in a desperate leap. Down, he roared, his voice cutting through the music. Sora reacted instantly, her trust in him absolute. She dove from the bench as Gareth grabbed Alara, pulling her behind the partial shelter of the hybrid instrument. The world exploded. Not from below, as expected, but from above. The remaining bombs had been hidden in the lighting array, positioned to rain destruction on the stage. The explosion shattered crystal and metal, sending deadly shrapnel in all directions. Gareth felt impacts across his back and shoulders, his body shielding the twins from the worst of it. The protective gear absorbed some damage, but not all. Pain flared along his spine, warm wetness spreading beneath his uniform. The Harmonium's sophisticated suppression systems kicked in, containing the blast and preventing secondary explosions. Emergency lighting bathed everything in red, mixing with the settling dust to create a hellish atmosphere. Status, Gareth managed, though speaking sent spikes of agony through his chest. "We're okay," Alara said, her voice shaky but determined. "You're hurt." "I'm fine." It was a lie, and they all knew it. But there were protocols to follow, procedures that might save other lives. Thompson, crowd control, medical teams to the stage, suspect status. "In custody," Thompson's voice confirmed. "Minor injuries in the audience from debris, but the suppression fields prevented worse. Gareth, stay down. Medical is 30 seconds out." 30 seconds. He could last 30 seconds. Except the warmth spreading across the stage suggested otherwise. One of the shrapnel pieces had found something vital. "Gareth," Sora crawled to his side, her performance dress torn and dusty, but her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Don't you dare. You promised." "Kept my promise," he managed. "You're safe." "That's not what I meant, and you know it." Alara was there too, applying pressure to wounds he couldn't see. Royal hands covered in his blood. Dignity abandoned for desperate action. "Stay with us," she commanded with all her royal authority. "That's an order." "Since when do I follow your orders?" He tried for humor, but coughed instead. The taste of copper filled his mouth. "Though if you wanted me to stay, you could have just asked." Medical teams swarmed the stage, their efficient movements a blur of activity. Gareth felt himself being lifted, sensors attached, treatments begun. But the darkness at the edge of his vision was winning. "Tell Thompson," he started. "Tell him yourself," Sora said fiercely. "You're not allowed to leave. We haven't shown you the rest of our research. Haven't introduced you to Mother. Haven't—" Her voice faded as consciousness slipped away. The last thing Gareth heard was music not from instruments, but from Sora herself, singing something that might have been a lullaby or a prayer or a command to the universe itself. He woke in stages, awareness returning in fragments. First came the antiseptic smell of medical facilities. Then, the subtle hum of healing fields working to repair damaged tissue. Finally, the soft sound of voices speaking in hushed tones. "Been 3 days. The doctors say his augmentation saved him, but—" "He'll wake up. He has to." Gareth opened his eyes, blinking against the soft light. He was in the Academy Medical Center, surrounded by more monitoring equipment than he'd seen outside a military hospital, and in chairs pulled close to his bed, looking exhausted but stubbornly present, were Alara and Sora. "About time," Alara said, but her relief was obvious. "Do you have any idea how much paperwork your heroics caused?" "Sorry to inconvenience you," Gareth croaked. His throat felt like sandpaper. "Water." Sora was already moving, helping him sip from a cup with hands that trembled slightly. "The doctors said you were lucky. Another centimeter and—" "But it wasn't another centimeter," he said firmly. "I'm fine. You're fine. That's what matters." 43 people were injured, Alara reported, always focused on the bigger picture. "But no deaths. The suppression systems you insisted on upgrading prevented a massacre." The aide, talking. "He was recruited by a splinter group we missed humans who lost family in the war, working with Illyrian purists. They called themselves the True Path, past tense, because they're all in custody now." Gareth absorbed this information, already thinking about implications and countermeasures. But Sora placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Stop," she said. For once, just stop. You saved us. You nearly died saving us. Take a moment to be human, not a security analysis machine. I don't know how to do that, he admitted. Then we'll teach you, Alara said. Consider it repayment for all the lessons you've taught us. Over the following days, as Gareth recovered, the full impact of the concert attack became clear. Instead of dividing the species, it had united them. The image of a human soldier, shielding Illyrian princesses with his own body, became a symbol, broadcast across both worlds. The music Sora had performed, interrupted, but not silenced, was released as a recording that topped charts on Earth and Illyria alike. You've become famous, Thompson told him during one visit. The man who took a bomb for peace. They want to give you medals from both governments. I don't want medals. I want better security protocols. Thompson laughed. Spoken like a true guardian. Don't worry. We're implementing everything you recommended and more. Nobody's getting through again. But it was the twins' visits that marked his recovery. They came every day, sometimes together, sometimes separately. Alara would read reports and debate security improvements, making him feel useful, even while bedridden. Sora would play music on a portable harmonizer, filling the sterile room with beauty. Mother wants to meet you, Alara mentioned one afternoon. She's coming for the Alliance Summit next month. She specifically requested you be assigned as her security liaison. I'm honored, but nothing. You're family now. Gareth, Mother's exact words were, I must meet the human who guards my daughter's hearts as fiercely as their bodies. Gareth felt heat rise in his face. She said that Illyrian mothers are very perceptive, Sora said with a grin. She knew before we did. Knew what? The twins exchanged one of their silent communications. Then Sora leaned forward and kissed his cheek, gentle as a butterfly. That home isn't a place. It's people. Alara took his hand, her touch cool and steady. The question is, are you ready to accept that, to stop being the lone guardian and become part of something larger? Gareth looked at these two impossible, brilliant, infuriating women who had somehow become the center of his universe. The soldier in him warned about compromised objectivity, about the dangers of attachment. But the human in him, the part they had awakened and nurtured, knew the truth. I've been ready since the day you tried to scare me with that hologram, he admitted. Just took a while to realize it. Well, you've always been a bit slow, Sora teased. But we're patient. We'll wait for you to catch up. 2 weeks later, Gareth stood in the rebuilt harmonium, watching final preparations for the rescheduled concert. Enhanced security measures were seamlessly integrated into the venue's design. Thompson's teams moved with quiet efficiency. Everything was as safe as human and Illyrian technology could make it. Nervous, Alara asked, joining him at his observation post. Always, but it's a good nervous, keeps me sharp. I meant about meeting Mother, not the security. Gareth glanced at her. Terrified. Your mother commands fleets. She could have me stationed on an asteroid mining facility with a word. She could, Alara agreed. But she won't. Not when you make us happy. Do I? Look at Sora, Alara said simply. On stage, Sora was running through sound checks, but her whole demeanor had changed from months ago. She was still playful, still brilliant, but there was a groundedness to her now, a security that came not from guards or protocols, but from knowing she was truly protected by someone who cared. She used to have nightmares, Alara continued quietly. About the war, about being a political pawn, about failing to bridge our peoples. They stopped the night you arrived. I didn't know. There's much you don't know yet. But you'll learn. Alara straightened, royal mask sliding back into place as dignitaries began arriving. For now, just keep doing what you do. Keep us safe. Keep us grounded. Keep us human. You are human, half anyway. You know what I mean. He did. In a universe of politics and protocols, of ancient prejudices and fragile alliances. It was easy to lose sight of basic connection. But here, in this moment, watching Sora prepare to share her gift with the universe, while Alara stood ready to speak for both their peoples, Gareth understood his true purpose. Not just to guard their bodies, but to protect their spirits, to be the anchor that let them soar, to be, in ways he was still discovering, family. The lights dimmed, the audience hushed, and Sora began to play, her music weaving together two worlds in harmony that spoke of hope, of healing, of home found in unexpected places. Gareth stood watch, as he always would. But now he wasn't just observing. He was part of the song. The secure conference room beneath the academy hummed with tension. Holographic displays showed intelligence reports, network analyses, and faces of known extremists still at large. Gareth stood at the center, his body still bearing healing scars from the concert attack, but his focus sharp as ever. The true path had help, he said, highlighting connections on the display. Someone inside the Aelirian delegation has been feeding them information, security protocols, schedules, vulnerabilities. Ambassador Harrison, Earth's senior diplomat, leaned forward. That's a serious accusation. Miles, do you have proof? Pattern analysis. Gareth pulled up another display. Every attack coincided with information that only someone with highest level access would know. The Netherbane came from Illyrian military stockpiles. The concert bombs were placed during a maintenance window known only to delegation staff. You're suggesting we have a traitor among the Queen's own advisors. General Thrain, the Illyrian military attaché, spoke with barely controlled anger. Choose your words carefully, human. I'm suggesting, Gareth said evenly, that someone wants us looking at each other with suspicion instead of finding the real threat. Classic misdirection. Make us tear ourselves apart so they don't have to. Alara, seated at the table in her official capacity, studied the data with calculating eyes. He's right. These aren't random acts of violence. They're surgical strikes designed to maximum psychological impact. Someone understands both our cultures intimately. The question is who, Sora added from her seat. Unlike her sister's formal attire, she wore simple clothes, but her presence was no less commanding. And more importantly, why now? The alliance has been in place for over a year. Why escalate now? Because of your research, Thompson said from his corner. The compatibility discoveries. If that information becomes public, it changes everything. No more pure-blood arguments when evolution itself is pushing our species together. Which brings us back to the insider, Gareth continued. Someone who knew about the research before it was classified. Someone with access to both delegations. Someone trusted enough that their activities wouldn't be questioned. He let that sink in, watching faces around the table. Then he dropped the bombshell. 3 nights ago, I had the night shift run a trace on all communication leaving the diplomatic compound. Standard security sweep. Nothing that violates privacy protocols. But we found something interesting. He brought up a new display. Encrypted burst transmissions, using old military codes. The kind both sides used during the war for deep cover operations. Where were they going? Harrison demanded. That's the interesting part. They weren't going off-world. They were going to the old embassy district, specifically, to a building that's been abandoned since the war. General Thrain stood abruptly. This is intolerable. You're conducting surveillance on diplomatic staff without authorization. I'm protecting the principals under my care, Gareth replied calmly. Which includes identifying all threats, internal and external. Would you prefer I wait for another bombing before acting? Enough, Alara commanded with royal authority. General Thrain, your objections are noted, but Mr. Miles has earned our trust. If he says there's a threat, we listen. The general subsided, but his expression remained thunderous. Gareth filed that away for later consideration. I propose a trap, he continued. Limited information. Carefully leaked. See who bites. Dangerous, Harrison mused. If we're wrong. If we're wrong, we've wasted some time and resources. If we're right, we prevent the next attack. Maybe save the Alliance itself. Over the next week, they implemented Gareth's plan with surgical precision. False intelligence was seeded to specific individuals, different details to different suspects. Then they waited. The twins, meanwhile, continued their public schedule with remarkable composure. Their mother, Queen Seraphina, was due to arrive in 10 days for the Alliance Summit. Every appearance, every speech, every gesture was calculated to project confidence and unity. But in private, the strain showed. I hate this, Sora confessed one evening. She was curled on the couch in their quarters, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. The constant suspicion, looking at people I've known my whole life and wondering if they want me dead. It's the price of peace, Alara said, though she looked equally worn. Father warned us it would be like this. That peace is harder than war, because the enemy doesn't wear a uniform. Gareth entered with a tea service earth chamomile for Sora, Illyrian moonleaf for Alara, black coffee for himself. It had become their evening ritual, these quiet moments away from the public eye. Any progress? Alara asked. Maybe. 2 of our false leads have gone active. Someone's definitely interested in the fake weapons shipment we invented. Which suspects had that information? Cultural attaché Melron and... He hesitated. General Thrain. Both twins went still. Thrain had served their family for decades, had been their father's shield brother during the war. It's not conclusive, Gareth added quickly. Could be someone on their staff, or they could be investigating on their own. But we can't ignore it, Alara finished. Very well. What do you need? Permission to go deeper, full surveillance, movement tracking, communication intercepts. The kind of investigation that definitely violates diplomatic protocols. You have it, Alara said immediately. Sister, Sora protested, if we're wrong about Thrain, then I'll apologize. Profusely. But I won't risk our lives or the Alliance on politeness. The next 3 days were an exercise in paranoid intelligence gathering. Gareth worked with a small team of absolutely trusted personnel, tracking every movement, every communication, every anomaly. And slowly, a picture emerged. It wasn't Thrain, but it was worse. Dr. Kellis, Gareth announced to the emergency gathering. The Queen's personal physician and scientific advisor. She's been here for the past month, preparing for the summit, and she's been very busy. The evidence was damning. Secret meetings in the abandoned embassy, communications with known extremist cells. Most chilling, medical records showing her research into the compatibility markers research that predated the twins' discoveries by years. She knew, Sora breathed. She knew about the evolutionary connection before anyone else. And she's been trying to suppress it, Gareth confirmed. Every attack, every threat, all designed to prevent the research from being completed or published. She's not trying to destroy the Alliance, she's trying to preserve what she sees as species purity. But why? Harrison asked. What could drive someone to this? Alara's face had gone pale with realization. The succession. Oh, stars. It's about the succession. At their confused looks, she explained. Illyrian law states that royal blood must remain pure to hold the throne. If widespread compatibility exists, if integration is biological destiny, the very foundation of our monarchy crumbles. Kellis is old guard, General Thrain said slowly. She advised my grandfather. She's been protecting the royal line for 3 generations. Protecting it into extinction, Sora said bitterly. The Fade is killing us slowly. This research could save our people, and she'd rather see us die pure than live integrated. We need to move fast, Gareth said. The Queen arrives in a week. If Kellis has been planning this long, she won't let that opportunity pass. What do you propose? Harrison asked. We turn her own methods against her. She wants to stage something at the summit. Fine. We'll give her the perfect opportunity. So perfect she won't be able to resist. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. They would announce a special ceremony. The twins would present their research findings to both delegations, with the Queen herself endorsing further integration studies. It would be everything Kellis feared, a public commitment to the very future she'd killed to prevent. She'll have to act, Gareth explained. And when she does, we'll be ready. You're using us as bait, Alara observed. Again. Only if you agree. I won't. We agree, Sora interrupted. But this time, we're not just bait. We're participants, full partners in whatever happens. That's exactly how it's going to be, Alara said firmly. We're tired of being protected like porcelain dolls. We have abilities, training, insights you need. Use them. Gareth wanted to argue, but he recognized the futility. And truthfully, they were right. The twins had proven themselves capable time and again. Fine, but we do this smart. No unnecessary risks. Define necessary, Sora said with a slight smile. The summit approached with agonizing swiftness. Security preparations were exhaustive, but they had to appear routine. Any sign that they knew about Kellis might drive her underground, or prompt her to act early. The Queen arrived in full ceremonial splendor, her ship descending from orbit like a falling star. Gareth watched from the security center as Alara and Sora greeted their mother with formal bows that became embraces the moment they were away from public view. Queen Seraphina was everything her daughters had inherited, and more regal bearing, sharp intelligence, and an underlying steel that had guided Illyria through its darkest hours. When she looked at Gareth during their introduction, he felt assessed and catalogued in seconds. So you're the human who guards my daughters, she said, her dual-toned voice carrying subtle harmonics of approval. They speak highly of you. I'm honored by their trust, Your Majesty. Trust must be earned. From what I hear, you've paid for it in blood. She studied him with those impossible eyes. Tell me, Mr. Miles, do you guard them out of duty or devotion? Both, he answered honestly. Duty brought me here. Devotion keeps me here. Good answer. She turned to her daughters. Now, tell me about this research that has someone willing to risk war to suppress. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of preparations. The ceremony was scheduled for the summit's final night, a grand gesture of unity and progress. Kellis played her part perfectly, the devoted advisor preparing for her queen's moment of triumph. But Gareth's surveillance caught the subtle signs: increased encrypted communications, unusual requisitions from medical supplies, movement patterns that didn't match her stated activities. She's recruited inside help, Thompson reported. At least 3 delegation members, maybe more. Their true believers think she's saving Illyria from contamination. Fanatics, General Thrain spat. He'd taken the revelation of treachery in the ranks personally. I've served alongside some of these people, trusted them with my life. Ideology makes anyone dangerous, Gareth observed. The question is how they'll strike. Kellis is too smart for another bombing. She'll want something that looks natural, or at least blamable on human extremists. Poison, Alara suggested. She is a doctor. Possible, but risky with all the medical scanners. I think. Gareth pulled up the ceremony layout. The presentation itself, when you're demonstrating the compatibility markers, that's when you'll be most vulnerable, when security is focused on the audience, not the stage. The research samples, Sora said suddenly. We're planning to show live cellular interaction. If she's tampered with them, she could trigger a reaction that looks like proof of incompatibility, maybe even something fatal to anyone with the markers. Gareth was already revising security protocols. We need to switch the samples, use decoys until the last moment. Or, Alara said slowly, we let her tamper with them, but prepare for it. Absolutely not. That's necessary, Alara finished. If we stop her beforehand, some will always wonder. But if she reveals herself, if everyone sees her willing to kill for her ideology, the conspiracy dies with her credibility. Sora agreed. Sometimes the best trap is the one your enemy thinks they've already won. Gareth looked between them. These brilliant, brave, impossibly stubborn women. Your mother is going to have me executed. Only if we die, Sora said cheerfully. So make sure we don't. The night of the ceremony arrived with all the pomp the occasion demanded. The Grand Assembly Hall was packed with delegates from 40 worlds, all come to witness this historic moment. The twins wore matching gowns that shifted between their species' colors, living symbols of integration. Gareth stood at his post, every nerve on fire. His team was positioned throughout the hall, ready for anything. The real research samples were secured, waiting to be switched at the last moment. Medical teams were on standby with treatments for every toxin Kellis might employ. Queen Seraphina took the podium first, her presence commanding absolute attention. We gather tonight not as conquerors or conquered, she began, but as family. For that is what our children have discovered, that we were always meant to be one people, divided by distance and time, but destined for unity. The crowd stirred, some with approval, others with carefully hidden displeasure. Gareth watched Kellis, standing among the Queen's advisors. Her face was perfectly composed, but her hands gripped her medical tablet too tightly. My daughters will now present their findings, the Queen continued. Research that promises not just political alliance, but biological harmony. A future where our children will inherit the best of both worlds. Alara and Sora took the stage, poised and professional. They began their presentation, holographic displays showing the intricate dance of compatible DNA. The audience was riveted, watching cellular integration that should have been impossible. The implications are staggering, Alara explained. Medical treatments effective across species. Genetic disorders eliminated through controlled integration. Even the fate itself could become a memory, rather than a death sentence. But more than that, Sora added, it's proof that we were never truly alien to each other. Somewhere in our past, we shared a common source. We are quite literally family, reuniting after eons apart. Gareth saw the moment Kellis made her move. A subtle gesture on her tablet, probably triggering whatever she'd done to the samples. His hand moved to his communicator, ready to signal the switch. But the twins were ahead of him. Of course, Alara said smoothly. Such claims require extraordinary proof. Dr. Kellis, would you please verify our samples? Your expertise in royal genetics is unmatched. Kellis froze for a fraction of a second. To refuse would be suspicious. To agree meant handling samples she believed were contaminated with her own weapons. Of course, Your Highness, she said, moving toward the stage with perfect poise. Doctor, you've served our family for generations, Sora said warmly. Tell us, what do you see when you examine these samples? Kellis activated her medical scanner, and Gareth saw the moment she realized something was wrong. These weren't the samples she'd tampered with. These were pure, untouched, showing exactly what the twins had claimed. There must be some mistake, Kelly said. These samples show integration that should be impossible. The royal blood would never... Never what? Queen Seraphina asked, rising from her seat. Never adapt, never evolve, never embrace survival over extinction. The trap was closing, but Kellis was too experienced to break easily. Your Majesty, these findings require further verification. Rushing to conclusions could damage... The only damage, Alara interrupted, comes from those who would suppress truth for ideology, who would murder children to preserve their vision of purity. How dare you? We dare, Sora said, steel beneath her gentle tone. Because we have proof. Guards, please examine Dr. Kellis's medical supplies. I believe you'll find some interesting additions to her standard equipment. Security moved smoothly, boxing Kellis in without seeming aggressive. But she wasn't finished. "You fools!" she hissed, abandoning pretense. "You'll destroy us all. Dilute our essence until nothing remains but mongrels wearing our faces." "Is that what you told yourself when you planted the bombs?" Gareth asked, stepping into view. "When you supplied Netherbane to terrorists? When you betrayed everything you swore to protect?" Kellis's face contorted with rage. "I protect purity. I preserve what makes us Illyrian. And if these abominations won't see reason..." She moved faster than her age suggested, a concealed injector appearing in her hand. Not aimed at the twins, at herself. A suicide switch, probably linked to something catastrophic. But Sora was faster. That same power she'd shown in the warehouse flowed out, her voice carrying harmonics that bypassed conscious thought. "Sleep," she commanded, "and wake to judgment." Kellis crumpled, the injector falling harmlessly from nerveless fingers. Security rushed in, securing both the doctor and her device. Later analysis would show it contained enough weaponized virus to kill everyone in the building with compatibility markers, nearly a third of the attendants. The hall erupted in chaos, but Queen Seraphina's voice cut through like a blade. "Be still." The command carried absolute authority. "You have witnessed treachery defeated by courage. You have seen what fear of the future drives people to do, but you have also seen what unity makes possible. My daughters and their guardian have saved not just lives, but hope itself." "The research stands," Alara announced, retaking control of the moment. "The future comes whether we fear it or embrace it. I know which path Illyria chooses." "And Earth stands with you," Ambassador Harrison declared, rising to his feet. "Not as conquerors or allies of convenience, but as family." The applause started slowly, then built to thunder. Not universal, some faces remained skeptical or hostile, but enough, more than enough to continue building. Later, in the secured conference room, the full scope of Kellis's conspiracy was revealed. 30 years of manipulation, of suppressing research, of orchestrating accidents for those who asked the wrong questions. All to preserve a vision of purity that was killing the very people she claimed to protect. "She genuinely believed she was saving us," Sora said sadly. "That's the worst part. She wasn't evil, just wrong, catastrophically wrong." "Intent doesn't erase action," Alara countered. "How many died because of her fears? How many more would have—" "The important thing is that it's over," Queen Seraphina said. "The conspiracy is exposed. The extremists discredited. We can move forward. With enhanced security protocols," Gareth added. "This won't be the last attempt. There are still those on both sides who prefer the old hatred. Then, they'll face the new unity," the Queen replied. She turned to Gareth with a measuring look. "My daughters trust you completely. That trust appears well placed. Tell me, what are your intentions regarding your position?" "I go where I'm needed, Your Majesty." "And where is that, do you think?" Gareth glanced at the twins, saw the hope they were trying to hide. "Here, for as long as they'll have me." "Good." The Queen smiled, an expression that transformed her face. "Then perhaps we should discuss making your position more permanent. My daughters need protection, yes, but they also need partnership. Someone who sees them as more than royal symbols." "Mother," Alara protested, though her cheeks colored slightly. "What I'm simply being practical. If Mr. Miles is to be part of our family's future, we should formalize it." She winked at Gareth. "Unless you have objections to court protocols." "I survived a war, multiple assassination attempts, and terrorist conspiracies," Gareth replied dryly. "I think I can handle court protocols." "We'll see," Sora laughed. "Wait until you experience a formal Illyrian celebration. The dancing alone might defeat you." "I don't dance." "You do now," Alara informed him. "Consider it part of your expanded duties." As the night wound down, and plans were made for the transformed future, Gareth found himself on a balcony overlooking the academy. The twins flanked him, all three exhausted but victorious. "So what happens now?" Sora asked. "The conspiracy is broken, the research is public, Mother approves of you. Seems like the happy ending." "It's not an ending," Alara corrected. "It's a beginning. The real work starts now, turning possibility into reality." "Building the future one day at a time," Gareth agreed. "Together." "Together," the twins echoed. Above them, stars from 100 worlds shone down, no longer divided by species or fear, but united in the vast tapestry of space. And on one small world, orbiting one ordinary star, 3 lives intertwined continued writing a story that would ripple across generations. The Guardian had become family. The family had become hope. And hope, as always, was the strongest force in any universe. The medical center's research wing buzzed with controlled chaos. Scientists from both worlds worked side by side, their excitement palpable as they verified and expanded upon the compatibility discoveries. At the center of it all, Sora and Marcus led their team through breakthrough after breakthrough, each finding more remarkable than the last. "The applications are endless," Marcus explained to the assembled board of directors, his nervousness long since replaced by passionate conviction. "Not just medical treatments, but agricultural advances, environmental restoration, even energy production. The symbiosis between our biologies could solve problems we've struggled with for generations." Gareth stood at his usual post, ostensibly providing security, but actually watching Sora work. 6 months had passed since Kellis's conspiracy was exposed. 6 months of peace, progress, and something that felt dangerously like happiness. "You're staring," Alara murmured, appearing at his elbow with her characteristic silence. "Observing. It's part of my job." And what are you observing, exactly?" "Potential threats. Security vulnerabilities. The way the light catches her hair when she gets excited about enzyme chains." Alara's laugh was warm and knowing. "You're worse than a lovesick academy student. I'm a professional bodyguard maintaining appropriate vigilance." "You're a man in love who's too stubborn to admit it." She grew serious. "Gareth, you know they're scaling back the security requirements. With Kellis's network dismantled and public opinion shifting toward integration, the active threat level is minimal." "There are always threats." "Yes, but they don't require a former Special Forces operative sleeping across the hall anymore." Alara studied him with those impossibly perceptive eyes. "Your contract ends in 2 weeks. Have you thought about what comes next?" He had, constantly. The thought of leaving, of returning to the anonymous drift of security work, felt like contemplating amputation. But staying meant acknowledging truths he'd been avoiding. "Thompson offered me the permanent position, head of diplomatic security for the entire academy. A good position, prestigious, important." Alara's tone suggested she knew it wasn't enough. But it would mean creating professional distance. Security heads don't live with their principals. They don't share evening tea and inside jokes. They don't fall in love with alien princesses. The words hung between them, undeniable now that they'd been spoken. "Both of you," Alara asked gently. "Or, I don't know," Gareth admitted. "You're both. I can't imagine life without either of you. But I know that's not fair, not appropriate, not human," Alara suggested. "Because Illyrian emotional structures don't always follow your binary patterns. We're capable of complex connections that—" She stopped, shaking her head. "No, that's not the conversation for me to have with you. Just don't make any decisions yet, please." Before Gareth could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Not the harsh keen of attack warnings, but the urgent pulse of medical emergency. "Contamination in Lab 3, the automated system announced. "Biological hazard detected. Lockdown initiated. Gareth was moving before the announcement finished. Alara, right behind him. Lab 3 was where Sora's team worked, where she'd been just minutes ago. They reached the observation window as blast doors sealed the lab. Inside, through the transparent aluminum, they could see chaos. Scientists scrambling for emergency equipment, someone on the ground convulsing, and Sora. Sora stood at the center of it all, her skin flickering with an inner light that Gareth had only seen twice before. She was singing, that same powerful harmonic that could bypass conscious thought. But something was wrong. The light was too bright, her voice strained, and blood-silver Illyrian blood ran from her nose. "What happened?" Gareth demanded of the tech manning the observation station. "Sample containment breach," the tech reported, hands flying over controls. "Something in the new synthesis. It's reacting with atmospheric compounds, creating a toxin. Anyone with compatibility markers is affected." "That's half the team," Alara breathed. "Sora's trying to neutralize it with harmonics, but at that intensity, she'll burn out her neural pathways," Gareth finished. He was already moving toward the emergency override. "Open the doors." "Are you insane? You'll contaminate the entire facility." "I said open them." "Gareth, no." Alara caught his arm. "You have the markers. You'll be affected too. Then I better work fast." He shrugged off her grip and hit the manual override. Military clearance codes, the kind that came with his background, sliced through safety protocols. The blast doors cycled open just enough for him to squeeze through before slamming shut again. The air in the lab hit him like a physical blow. Whatever the toxin was, it went straight for the nervous system. His augmented physiology bought him time. But not much. Already, his vision was starting to blur at the edges. Sora. He reached her in 3 strides, catching her as her legs gave out. The light pouring from her was actually hot to the touch, her body burning through its reserves in a desperate attempt to save everyone. "Can't stop," she gasped. "If I stop, they die." "Then don't stop, but let me help." He didn't know what he was doing, only that leaving her to face this alone was unthinkable. "Tell me how." "Can't. Human neurology doesn't—" She convulsed, the harmonics faltering. Around them, the affected scientists were getting worse. Marcus was on the ground, seizing. Others were losing consciousness. Time running out for all of them. "The research," Gareth said urgently. "The compatibility. If our species are connected, then maybe—" "Dangerous," Sora warned. "Could kill you." "Already dying. Might as well try." She looked at him with eyes that held galaxies, then nodded. "Hold me, skin contact. And whatever happens, don't let go." He pulled her against him, her back to his chest, his arms wrapped around her. The moment their skin touched fully, he understood why she'd warned him. It was like being struck by lightning made of music. Energy poured between them. Her Illyrian harmonics finding resonance in places he didn't know existed. His augmented nervous system, already pushed to its limits by military enhancement, became a conduit for something entirely alien. But not incompatible. The harmonics shifted, strengthened. What Sora couldn't sustain alone became possible with 2. The toxic compounds in the air began breaking down, neutralized by frequencies that seemed to rewrite molecular structures. Gareth felt his consciousness expanding, touching edges of Sora's mind. Not telepathy, humans weren't capable of that. But something deeper. Emotional resonance that transcended species boundaries. He felt her exhaustion, her determination, her fear. And underneath it all, something that made his heart race despite everything. Love. Not the simple human emotion, but something multi-layered, complex, alien and familiar all at once. The sensation was overwhelming. Too much. His nervous system screamed protests as energy coursed through pathways, never meant to handle such power. But he held on, pouring his strength into her, letting her use him as an anchor. And then, just as suddenly as it began, It was over. The toxin was neutralized. The air was clear. Around them, the affected scientists were stirring, their bodies already beginning to recover. Sora collapsed completely, only Gareth's arms keeping her upright. He wasn't much better, every nerve feeling like it had been scoured with fire. But they were alive. Everyone was alive. "Medical teams are entering," someone announced over the intercom. "Remain calm. Treatment is incoming." Gareth managed to lower them both to the floor before his legs gave out entirely. Sora curled against him, her breathing ragged but steady. "That was incredibly stupid," she murmured. "Learn from the best. We could have died." "But we didn't." "No," she agreed, and he felt her smile against his chest. "We didn't." The medical team swarmed in, efficient and professional. But when they tried to separate Gareth and Sora, she made a sound of protest that stopped them cold. "Not yet," she said. "The resonance needs to stabilize. Forced separation now could cause neural shock." It was probably true. It was definitely convenient. Gareth held her as the medics worked around them, running scans and administering treatments to the rest of the team. "Fascinating," Dr. Winters muttered, studying her readings. "Your neural patterns have partially synchronized. I've never seen anything like it." "Is it permanent?" Alara asked. She'd managed to talk her way into the lab, and now hovered nearby, concern evident despite her controlled expression. "Unknown. The compatibility markers seem to have activated in ways we didn't predict. They'll need monitoring, but—" The doctor shook her head. "This could change everything we thought we knew about the integration potential." Over the next hours, as the immediate crisis passed and the lab was decontaminated, the full implications became clear. The accident hadn't been sabotage, but simple error, a synthesis that worked perfectly in controlled conditions, but reacted violently to specific atmospheric compounds. The kind of mistake that happened in cutting-edge research. But Gareth and Sora's response had been anything but accidental. "You synchronized," Marcus explained, still weak but animated with scientific fervor. "Not just emotionally, but neurologically. For those few minutes, you created a hybrid consciousness that could process both human and Illyrian thought patterns." "That's impossible," Gareth said flatly. He was sitting up now, still feeling echoes of that alien presence in his mind. "So was faster-than-light travel until we did it," Sora countered. She hadn't moved far from his side, and he found he didn't want her to. Maybe impossible is just another word for not yet understood. "The implications are staggering," Alara added. "If full neural synchronization is possible between compatible individuals, it could revolutionize everything," Marcus finished. "Communication, cooperation, understanding at levels we never imagined. Or it could be incredibly dangerous," Gareth pointed out. "What happened in there? It felt like my brain was being rewritten." "Not rewritten," Sora said quietly. "Expanded. I felt it too. Like suddenly seeing colors that were always there but invisible before." She met his eyes, and he saw his own wonder reflected there, along with something else, something that made his chest tight. "We need to talk," she said, privately. They found refuge in one of the medical center's recovery rooms. Alara stood guard outside, giving them the privacy they needed, while ensuring no one interrupted. "What happened in there?" Sora began, then stopped, searching for words. "When we connected, I felt everything. Your memories, your emotions, your—" "I know. I felt yours too." "Then you know why we need to talk about this. About us. About what comes next." Gareth had faced enemy fire, survived torture, made life and death decisions in split seconds. But this conversation terrified him more than any battlefield. "My contract ends in 2 weeks," he said carefully. "I know. Thompson offered me the permanent position." "I know that too. But taking it would mean creating distance, being professional, pretending that what's been growing between us doesn't exist." Sora's voice was steady. but he could see the effort it took. Is that what you want? What I want has never been the primary consideration. That's not an answer. No, he admitted. It's not. She moved closer, taking his hands in hers. Her skin was cooler than human normal, but he'd long since stopped noticing such differences. In the lab, when our minds touched, I saw something, she said. A memory. You were young, maybe 10 years old, watching the stars with someone your mother. She was telling you about possibilities, about life among the stars, about finding where you belong. Gareth's throat tightened. He hadn't thought about that night in years. His mother, before the cancer took her, pointing out constellations and filling his head with dreams. She said home wasn't a place but a feeling, Sora continued, that you'd know it when you found it. Do you remember what else she said? That home was where people would miss you if you left, he whispered. I would miss you, Sora said simply. Every day, every moment. The synchronization just confirmed what I already knew. You're part of me now, Gareth. Not because of compatibility markers or neural resonance, but because somewhere between that first day and now, you became essential. Sora, I know it's complicated. Different species, different lifespans, political implications that make my head spin. But I also know that when I thought you were dying at the concert, when I sang you back from the edge, it wasn't duty or friendship that gave me strength. It was love. The word hung between them, simple and enormous. And Alara, he asked, because that was the part that made everything exponentially more complex. Loves you too, in her way. Differently than I do, but no less real. Sora smiled at his expression. I told you, Illyrian emotional structures don't follow human patterns. We're capable of complex connections that... That's what Alara said, before she stopped herself. Because she knew it needed to come from me. From us. Sora squeezed his hands. The question is, can you accept that can you be part of something that doesn't fit any traditional framework? I've been part of it for months, Gareth pointed out. Living with you both. Sharing meals. Sharing jokes. Sharing dangers. The only thing that would change is acknowledging what it really is. And what is it? He thought about the past months. About evening teas and morning briefings. About Alara's dry wit and Sora's infectious laughter. About two brilliant women who'd somehow made a broken soldier feel whole again. Family, he said. It's family. Yes, Sora agreed. But also more. At least for me. She leaned forward, giving him time to pull back if he wanted. He didn't. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative. Then she made a small sound of happiness, and it became something else entirely. When they finally broke apart, both breathing unsteadily, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Stay, she whispered. Not as our bodyguard, not as security, just as Gareth, as yourself, as ours. Ours, you and Alara. If you're willing, if you can accept us both, in whatever configuration works. She may never want the physical aspect that's not her way, but the emotional connection, the partnership, the love that's as real for her as it is for me. It should have been impossibly complicated. By human standards, it was. But standing there, holding this remarkable woman who'd literally shared his consciousness, Gareth found his answer was simple. Yes, he said. To all of it. To whatever you're both comfortable with. To figuring it out as we go. To being yours. Her smile could have powered suns. Good, because we already cleared it with Mother. You what? Did you really think she didn't know mothers always know? She's already arranged citizenship papers for you. Dual citizenship. Technically. Very rare honor. Sora's expression turned impish. Of course, there are certain ceremonial requirements. Such as, oh, nothing much. Just presenting yourself to the full Illyrian court. Learning our formal dance traditions. possibly getting neural compatibility testing to ensure any future offspring. Offspring. Eventually. Maybe. If we want. She was blushing now, silver flushing her cheeks. The point is, are you ready for all of it? Not just the danger and drama, but the daily life, the politics and ceremonies, the very public nature of being involved with royalty. I survived a war, Gareth said dryly. How hard can court life be? Famous last words. He'd think later. But in that moment, with Sora in his arms and a future spreading before them bright with possibility, he meant every word. They emerged from the recovery room to find Alara waiting with poorly concealed anxiety. She took one look at their joined hands and relaxed fractionally. Well, she asked. He's staying, Sora announced. Good. Alara stepped forward, surprising Gareth by embracing him. I'm glad, she said against his shoulder. These months I've been happier than I knew was possible. I didn't want to lose that. You won't, he promised. Though we'll need to figure out the details. Details are my specialty, Alara said, pulling back with a smile that transformed her usual serious expression. I've already drafted 17 different cohabitation agreements, accounting for various scenarios. Of course you have, Sora laughed. Only 17. I've been distracted by actual diplomatic work. Give me another week and I'll have 30. It was so perfectly them that Gareth couldn't help but laugh. This was his life now. Legal documents and laboratory accidents. Assassination attempts and family dinners. Two brilliant women who'd claimed his heart in entirely different, but equally permanent ways. The medical staff finally cleared them to leave as evening fell. They walked back to their quarters together, Sora's hand in his, Alara close beside them. The academy halls were quiet, most students at dinner or evening activities. There's something else, Alara said as they reached their door. Something we discovered during the neural resonance incident. More complications, Gareth asked. More like revelations. She gestured them inside, activating privacy screens. The depth of synchronization you achieved shouldn't have been possible with standard compatibility markers. So we ran deeper scans. She projected the data into the air, genetic sequences, neural patterns, markers highlighted in different colors. You're not just compatible, she explained. You're specifically compatible with us. The chances of random mutation producing this exact configuration are astronomical. Which means, Gareth asked, though he suspected he knew. Which means it's not random, Sora said quietly. When you synchronized with me, I saw more than just memories. I saw patterns, genetic memories, almost images of Earth from centuries ago, but also other places, other worlds. That's impossible. I'm human. Both my parents were human. I have records going back generations. Human now, Alara corrected. But the compatibility markers didn't evolve naturally. They were engineered, seeded into both our populations long ago by someone who saw this future coming. The predecessors, Sora whispered. The ones who left ruins on a dozen worlds. They weren't extinct. They became us. Divided themselves among the younger species to guide evolution toward this. Toward reunion, Gareth said, understanding flooding through him. That's why I could synchronize so completely. It's not just compatibility. It's recognition. Some part of me knew you before we ever met. Some part of all of us knew, Alara agreed. The predecessors didn't disappear. They transformed, became the seeds of connection between species. And now, after millennia, those seeds are flowering. You're saying I'm part alien. We're saying we're all part of something larger, Sora corrected. Human, Illyrian, all the other species finding these connections. We're pieces of a greater whole, finally coming back together. It should have been shattering. Learning his entire identity was built on hidden truths. But looking at these two women, his partners, his loves, his family, Gareth found only peace. "So what now?" he asked. "Now we continue the work," Alara said. "Understanding the connections, building the bridges, creating the future the predecessors envisioned." "Together," Sora added, taking his hand again. "Together," Gareth agreed. Outside their window, the stars shone with ancient light. Somewhere among them were the answers to questions they were only beginning to ask. But for tonight, in this moment, the questions could wait. He was home, not because of shared genetics or engineered compatibility, but because two remarkable women had chosen him, and he had chosen them in return. The bodyguard had become family. The family had become the future. And the future, vast and bright with promise, was just beginning. As they settled in for their evening ritual, tea and conversation, planning and dreams, Gareth thought about his mother's words from so long ago. Home was where people would miss you if you left. By that definition, he was the richest man in the galaxy. "I love you both," he said suddenly, surprising himself with the ease of the words. "We know," Alara replied with a gentle smile. "We love you too," Sora added, curling against his side. And in that simple exchange was the entire truth. Not just love between individuals, but between species, between worlds, between all the scattered children of the stars, finally finding their way back to each other. The transformation from bodyguard to family was complete. But the story, their story, humanity's story, the galaxy's story was just beginning.